Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 12 wide receiver rankings and tiers for the 2023 fantasy football season. Inside today's video, I'll be going in depth into each and every single wide receiver ranked inside of my top 12, as well as explaining into why I believe these wide receivers go into each tier. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel, and if you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. We did our top 12 running back rankings as our last video with tiers as well. So if you want to check that out, make sure you watch all of this video. But you can watch that one after if you haven't already. So tier number 1, we have Justin Jefferson, Ja'Marr Chase, Tyreek Hill, as well as Cooper Kupp. If you want to say, hey, Nick, I actually think Tyreek Hill, or I think Ja'Marr Chase or Cooper Kupp should be your wide receiver 1, I don't really have a crazy argument to make with you. I like all of these wide receivers a ton and think any of them could easily be the wide receiver 1. Thus, why they're all in the same tier of players together. I love utilizing the tiered drafting strategy where you kind of put all the players in tiers at each position, and once you see a tier dwindling down, you might want to go ahead and draft that position instead of another position where maybe there is a variety of players in that tier that you still like. For instance, if you were looking at tier number 3 wide receivers versus running backs, and there's a lot of running backs available, but there's only one wide receiver left in that tier, you might want to draft that wide receiver. If you don't understand kind of what I'm talking about and you have any questions, just ask down below in the comments. So Justin Jefferson is my wide receiver 1 in tier number 1. He was the wide receiver number 1 in half PPR last year, the wide receiver 2 in half PPR points per game, and he's coming off the board right now on Underdog as the wide receiver number 1 at pick 1.2, though I will note, while he is on Underdog, pick 1.2, the number 1 pick in a majority of drafts, I would not be shocked if in your normal redraft league with your friends from home, with the people you play with in college, your work colleagues, right? He might not be the number 1 pick, because people still have that infatuation with the running back position. People still might be taking McCaffrey number 1 overall, maybe even Bijan fucking Robinson number 1 overall, right? But right now, Justin Jefferson is the number 1 overall pick in basically every draft I've done on Underdog Fantasy. He played in 17 games last season, 184 targets, 10.8 per game, number 1 at wide receiver, 128 receptions, 7.5 per game, number 1, 1,809 receiving yards, 106.4 per game, number 1, and 9 total touchdowns, number 4. Some interesting efficiency stats, despite the fact that Kirk Cousins isn't necessarily the greatest quarterback on earth. Justin Jefferson had a 7.5 target accuracy, 35th at wide receiver. But again, it does not really matter when you have a wide receiver as skilled as Justin Jefferson. Even if Kirk Cousins isn't the best, he's still going to be amazing. 9.8 yards per target, 8th at wide receiver, 2.7 yards per team pass attempt, 3rd, and 328 total route wins, 1st at wide receiver. This guy was completely dominant, 50 Shades of Grey style last season. I don't have to get down on my knees and give this guy the metaphorical gawk gawk 9,000 for you guys to realize just how great Justin Jefferson is. I got him as my wide receiver number 1 here in 2023. Again, if you want to argue for Chase, Tyreek, Cooper Kupp, I'm not going to have some crazy argument with you. At number 2, still in tier number 1, Ja'Marr Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. Underdog ADP wide receiver 2 at pick 2.3. Wide receiver number 12 in half PPR and the wide receiver 5 in half PPR points per game. He did end up only playing in 12 games last season, 134 targets, 11.2 per game, number 14, 87 receptions, 7.3 per game, number 12, 1,046 receiving yards, 87.2 per game, 16th, and 9 total touchdowns. Same as Justin Jefferson, number 4 at wide receiver. In terms of some interesting efficiency stats, if you just want to go for which guy is the better quarterback, maybe that's why you want to rank Ja'Marr Chase over Justin Jefferson. Well, we all know Burrow's better than Kirk. 8.1 target accuracy, 7th at wide receiver, and a 31.9% dominator rating. Dominator rating at wide receiver is a percentage of total team receiving yards and team receiving touchdowns, 10th at wide receiver. So even though they have T. Higgins, who would be a wide receiver number 1, the guy, the alpha on a lot of teams in the NFL, even though Ja'Marr Chase has that, he also has Tyler Boyd out there with him. The guy is still dominant. Again, I'm not here to explain super in depth why I love Ja'Marr Chase, right? We all know why we like Ja'Marr Chase. Again, an amazing offense, an amazing quarterback, and he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. That's why we have him ranked at wide receiver number 2. And again, if he's able to stay healthy, he is basically a shoo-in to be a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football. The next wide receiver here at number 3, we have Tyreek, the freak hill of the Miami Dolphins. Underdog ADP wide receiver number 3 at pick 4.9. Going into last year, a lot of people said, oh, Tyreek is not going to be that great for fantasy football because, oh, he's going from Pat Mahomes to Tua, and Tyreek Hill basically shit all over that statement. Wide receiver number 2.5 PPR, wide receiver 3 in points per game. Doing so with a carousel at the quarterback position due to Tua's injuries. There was Teddy Bridgewater, they had Skylar Thompson, and they had Tua, and even with the bad quarterback play at points, Tyreek, again, still amazing. 170 targets, 10 per game, number 3 at wide receiver. 119 of receptions, 7 per game, number 2 at wide receiver. 1,710 receiving yards, most receiving yards of the man's career without Patrick Mahomes. 100.6 per game, number 2, and 9 total touchdowns, number 4. Some efficiency stats, a 52.3% route win rate, 3rd at wide receiver, 10.1 yards per target, 6th, and a 148.7 true catch rate, 2nd at wide receiver. A lot of people always say, oh, Tyreek Hill can't make these crazy catches, right? Tyreek Hill, just fast, makes the cool catches, right, where he's like wide open, he catches the ball, but he was also catching contested passes last year, so Tyreek definitely looked really good in Miami. If Tua was able to stay healthy, his ceiling obviously is the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. This offense under Mike McDaniel is a high-flying, powerful offense that's going to be throwing the rock a ton. Tyreek Hill, again, one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, and if you want to make an argument that he's going to be your number 1 wide receiver, even though he's getting up there in age, again, not arguing with you. At number 4, we have Cooper Kupp of the LA Rams, underdog ADP wide receiver 4 at pick 5.8. I've mentioned Underdog Fantasy a bunch. They are a best ball website. If you guys are new to Underdog Fantasy, you might want to do some drafts, right? You don't want to wait until late August, early September. We can do some drafts right now. They have the Best Ball Mania tournament. $25 to enter, $15 million in total prizes. If you don't want to be spending $25 on a draft in May, I understand. They also opened the brand new puppy tournament, only $5 to enter. If you click on the link in the video description down below and you sign up using that link, it will give you a $100 first match deposit bonus. So if you deposit $100, they'll give you an additional $100. If you deposit $50, they'll give you an additional $50, 25, additional 25. So it's a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Make sure you guys check that out. I love best ball so much because it gets frustrating if you play in a bunch of leagues trying to pick up all these players off the waiver wire. You might even forget to do it. You might also start the wrong players in your lineup. On Underdog Fantasy, it's best ball. There's no waivers. There's no trades. And the best players are always going to be in your lineup based upon the players that you draft. So Cooper Kupp, again, Underdog ADP wide receiver 4, pick 5.8. If this guy played every game, he only played in 9 games, wide receiver 24, but he was the wide receiver number 1 in half PPR points per game. Again, playing in 9 games, he had 98 targets, 10.9 per game, 34th at wide receiver, 75 receptions, 8.3 per game, 23rd, 7 total touchdowns, 14th, and 812 receiving yards, 90.2 per game, number 33. My only worry when it comes to Cooper Kupp is the quarterback situation. How healthy is Matthew Stafford? I honestly think if the LA Rams were in a position to not be getting dicked down every single game late on in the season, Cooper Kupp probably would have returned, right? If the LA Rams were in position to push for the playoffs and they weren't just dead flopping around like a fish out of water, then Cooper Kupp probably plays again last season, I would think. And if he didn't play during the regular season, he probably would have manned up and tried to get in there for the playoffs. The guy's amazing. Obviously, 2.15 target separation, 11th at wide receiver, 7.8 target accuracy, 18th, 52.3% dominator rating, completely dominant, number 1, 1 drop. 1 drop, 98 targets, 75 receptions, right? The guy is amazing. My only worry, again, how healthy is Matthew Stafford? But then you can counter that argument by saying it doesn't matter who the fucking quarterback is, as long as they have a pulse and they can throw the ball near Cooper Kupp, he's going to catch the ball. Again, Cooper Kupp's getting up there in age as well. He's not the young Justin Jefferson. He's not Ja'Marr Chase in age, but he's just as good as them, if not better. Now we move to tier number 2 at the wide receiver position. This is a tier of 2 players, just a step down from Tyreek, Ja'Marr, Justin Jefferson, and Ja'Marr Chase. and Cooper Kupp. I think I said Jamar twice. So Kupp, Hill, Chase, and Jefferson just a little step down below them. If you wanted to say, Nick, I think Diggs or Davante Adams deserves to be in tier number 1, I would argue with you because I don't got them in there. But I wouldn't say that it's like some insane thing to say, especially Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills, wide receiver number 5, underdog ADP, wide receiver number 5, pick 8.4. Off the board right now, wide receiver number 4.5 PPR last year, wide receiver 6 in points per game. 17 games played, 155 targets, 9.1 per game, 5th. 110 receptions, 6.5 per game, 3rd. 1,455 receiving yards, 85.6 per game, 5th. And 11 total touchdowns, number 2 at wide receiver. Now, I thought entering the NFL draft, it was entirely possible that the Bills elect to draft a new pass catcher. Most likely, maybe a new wide receiver, because Gabe Davis was a big, fat dud last season. Maybe they look to get Jaylen Hyatt some speed, or maybe they go a different way. Maybe they go running back. They draft Dalton Kincaid. Now, does Dalton Kincaid move the needle at all for me for Stefon Diggs? Does it make me nervous about Stefon Diggs? Fuck no, baby. Of course I'm not nervous about Stefon Diggs. I'm not. I think he's going to be just fine regardless of who they brought in. But I think it's a positive that it wasn't a wide receiver. Some interesting efficiency stats: 2.51 yards per pass attempt, 6th. 9.4 yards per target, 17th. 2.07 fantasy points per target, 9th. And 0.63 fantasy points per route run, 4th. Again, the same argument you can make for Jamar Chase, for these guys that have these elite quarterbacks, right? They are on an elite offense with an elite quarterback, so their ceiling is incredible. Josh Allen can throw the ball like it was shot out of a goddamn cannon, a bazooka. The thing can go deep down the field, and Diggs is going to catch it. Again, Diggs is another one of these guys. He's no longer this spry chicken, right? He's not 23, 24 years old anymore. I'm not saying he's ancient, right? He's not old. He's not super old. He's getting up there in age, but it doesn't worry me. Again, when you have a wide receiver as elite as Stefon Diggs and as elite of an offense as the Buffalo Bills, you're going to continue to tout him highly. Again, he was the wide receiver 4 last year in half PPR, wide receiver 6 in points per game. So there's really no reason to doubt this guy. I do think the Bills might not be as good as people say they're going to be in 2023, but I don't think that means that Stefon Diggs is magically awful. Another plus, the Bills' defense isn't amazing, so they're going to be in these high-powered firefight fucking games late in the game where they got to throw the ball, and that's big for Diggs. At number 6, we got Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. Underdog ADP, wide receiver number 7 at pick 10.9. Wide receiver 3.5 PPR, wide receiver 4.5 PPR points per game, and people are sleeping on him. I don't care if I am the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. Davante Adams is going to be just fine. I know, Nick, Derek Carr's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I agree. He is. And I don't like Jimmy G at all. Right? The sexy bastard, the good-looking man himself. Right? Handsome Jimmy, Jimmy Pornstar, Jimmy Guap, Jimmy G-Spot. Right? He's not the best. But you don't need the best. When you're Davante Adams, Darren Waller is out. They bring in Jacoby Myers, sure. But Davante Adams is that guy. Again, another guy, not a spring chicken. Still one of the best receivers in the league. And I think people are really disrespecting Davante Adams. Again, I have him one spot higher than consensus, right? His ADP is wide receiver number 7. I think people are still sleeping on him, though. I think people are forgetting just how great Davante Adams is. 180 targets, 10.6 per game, number 2 wide receiver. 100 receptions, 5.9 per game, 7th. 1,516 receiving yards, 89.2 per game, 3rd. And 14 total tugs, 1st at wide receiver. Pretty much the only negative thing you can throw at Davante Adams, besides Jimmy Garoppolo being is the coach. The coach of the Raiders is a stooge. He's an idiot. I don't think he's head coach material. Now, Josh McDaniels, could he be an offensive coordinator in the league? Of course. Coach, though? I don't think so. But back to the Jimmy Garoppolo standpoint. Davante Adams had a 7 target accuracy last year, 69th at wide receiver. 69th. So, not the most accurate passes going his way. And he's still one of the best receivers in the NFL. So, it doesn't take some scientist, it doesn't take Albert Einstein, some genius, to figure out that even with a not the best quarterback, Davante Adams is still going to be amazing. 43.2% dominator rating, 256 total route wins, 5th. Second highest dominator rating, even with the 69th best targets. Nice. Again, I'm not here to try to make you feel stupid or something. You know how good Davante Adams is. We all know how good he is. So let's rank him correctly, right? Put him in tier 2. Don't bump him down to tier number 3. Moving to tier number 3, we've got a tier of 3 guys: Amon-Ra, CeeDee, AJ Brown. Again, the idea of tiers is these guys are very interchangeable, right? So the fact that I have Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked ahead of CeeDee and AJ Brown doesn't mean that I think CeeDee and AJ Brown are bad. And I think some people will take that away from what I say, right? They say, Nick, you're bananas. You're crazy. Amon-Ra ahead of those guys? And I will just say, Amon-Ra was also a top 10 receiver last year, right? Wide receiver 10 off the board on our dog, pick 15.7. Last year he was wide receiver 8.5 PPR, wide receiver 10.5 PPR points per game. Nick, he's on the Lions. These aren't the Lions of the past. These aren't the Detroit Lions that are getting dicked down late in games. This is not the Detroit Lions that is bending over the table, getting blown their back out all game long, right? This is a different Detroit Lions. Nick, Jared Goff. I know Jared Goff isn't amazing, but Jared Goff's decent enough. And Jared Goff actually was really accurate when it came to throwing to Amon-Ra. 8.0 target accuracy, 9th. 26.3% dominate rate, 24th. 93% true catch rate, 15th. Again, 16 games played, 146 targets, 9.1 per game, 8th. 106 receptions, 6.6 per game, 5th. 1,161 receiving yards, 72.6 per game, 10th. 6th total tugs, 20th at wide receiver. The team loses Jameson Williams for the first 6 games due to gambling. What a smarty Jameson Williams is. Don't even think he was betting on the NFL, though, so it's a little bit different. But he was betting at the team facility. Can't do that. Can't do that. So, DJ Chark, gone. Shipped off. Bye-bye, pal. He's gone. They bring in Marvin Jones. I love Marvin Jones. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the clear big dog. He's the alpha in this offense. I know you have these negative thoughts about the Lions. I know you have these negative thoughts likely about Jared Goff. But again, Amon-Ra is really that good. Their defense also isn't amazing. You gotta be throwing late in games. The Lions love to get into these firefights, these dogfights, these high-scoring games. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I won't apologize for it. Number 8, CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Cowboys. Underdog ADP's wide receiver 8, pick 12.7. Wide receiver 6.5 PPR. Wide receiver 8 in points per game. 17 games played with Dickey, Dak Prescott, and Cooper Rush. 156 targets, 9.2 per game. Number 4, 107 receptions, 6.3 per game. Number 4, 1,359 receiving yards, 79.9 per game. 6th, 9 total touchdowns. 4th, interesting efficiency stats, 49.5% route run rate. 8th, 33.4% dominated rating. 7th, 11% juke rate. 8th. This guy's really good. The Cowboys, while their playoff success isn't amazing, while the Cowboys, we like making fun of them because they always choke in the fucking playoffs, right? Like Darth Vader force choking on them. They always do that. But the fantasy football playoffs are during the regular season. The fantasy football season is the regular season. Mike McCarthy's an idiot. I agree. The fat man, the Kool-Aid man himself. But hey, all that matters is the regular season. They bring in Brandon Cooks. I think that's great for the offense. They leave Ezekiel Elliott on the side. Could Zeke come back? I still think Zeke might come back. Still think so. But look, again, during the regular season, CeeDee is going to be incredibly consistent. Cowboys offense is one of the better offenses in the NFL. CeeDee is the clear number 1. So he's a top 12 receiver. Top 10 guy. Number 8. At number 9, we move to another receiver in the NFC East. AJ Brown, Philadelphia Eagles, underdog ADP wide receiver 6, pick 9.1. Now, I have him 3 spots below ADP, and I think rightfully so. I think a lot of people love AJ Brown because they love the Eagles offense, and I do too. What I think people are kind of forgetting about is that, like, he was good last year. He got a lot of receiving yards, scored a lot of touchdowns. What happens if DeVonta Smith scores a lot of touchdowns instead of AJ Brown? What happens if the running attack is more efficient with DeAndre Swift and with Rashad Penny and with Jalen Hurts? What happens in that scenario? Now, again, I'm not trying to shit on A.J. Brown. I still think he's a top 10 receiver. I just think that maybe people are slightly too high on A.J. Brown. Now, I was also kind of low on A.J. Brown last year. I was worried about how he would fill in this Eagles offense, and I was wrong. So I'm not going to be wrong twice, right? I'm not going to rank him super low. But look, the stats are good, right? 146 targets, 8.6 per game, 8th at wide receiver, 88 receptions, 5.2 per game, 11th, 1,496 receiving yards, 88 per game, 4th, 11 total touchdowns, 2nd. In terms of efficiency stats, 3.0 yards per route run, 2nd, 10.2 yards per target, 4th, 17 yards per reception, 5th. So again, even going back to what I said, while I think the rushing attack is still going to be really strong, I think DeAndre Swift actually adds an extra ability to this offense that they did not have last season, and I think Rashad Penny is comparable to Miles Sanders if he's able to stay healthy. And we know Jalen Hurts is going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns. So again, even if the rushing attack is at its tip-top shape, right? Even if it's amazing, A.J. Brown's still going to be really good. I just think he's not necessarily penciled in to be this top 5-6 guy like a lot of people have him. That's really what I'm saying. So I hope you think I didn't just pull my pants down and take a dump on A.J. Brown's chest or something, or you think that I hate A.J. Brown and I think he's a bad player, because just looking at the stats, you watch the guy, he's really good. So I kind of hope you understand where I'm coming from here. Now to tier number 4, the final tier of today's video. Wide receivers 10, 11, and 12. At number 10, we got Jaylen Waddle away, waddle, till the very next day. Bum, bottom of the Miami Dolphins. Our dog ADP wide receiver 11, pick 19.1. If you guys haven't ended up enjoying thus far, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button below as well if you are brand new. And if you're new or not, hit the like button. Wide receiver 7.5 PPR. Wide receiver 13.5 PPR points per game. He played in 17 games. Again, even with the mismatched quarterback situation in Miami. 116 targets, 6.8 per game, number 24. 75 receptions, 4.4 per game, number 23. 1,356 receiving yards, 79.8 per game, number 7. And 8 total touchdowns, number 11 at wide receiver. So even with Tyreek Hill there, I still really believe this is a 1A, 1B. Jaylen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. 1A, 1B, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. 1A, 1B, DeVonta Smith, and A.J. Brown, right? While Tyreek Hill is definitely better than Jaylen Waddle, it's not like Jaylen Waddle's some scrub. Again, I believe this offense, if Tua is able to stay healthy, could be, and I think they will be, the best offense in the National Football League. My only worry when it comes to Jaylen Waddle, and something I also am starting to worry about a little bit more Tyreek Hill, is that this Dolphins defense is legit. They bring in Vic Fangio, they got Jalen Ramsey. The defense is loaded to the gills. Hopefully Xavier Howard is able to stay healthy. They got a great defense. Christian Wilkins, a bunch of guys that you can name off. My one worry is that if the defense is really that good, like as a Dolphins fan, I hope they are, late in the games, they're going to be running more. I think that could hurt Waddle and Tyreek. But even with that said, if you get up to these big leads, the defense is playing well, you're probably just stomping teams early, running late. So in that time, the first 3 quarters where they're stomping all over teams, Jaylen Waddle could be very dominant. And in my opinion, will be very dominant. First in yards per target with 11.7. First in yards per reception with 18.1. Third in fantasy points per target with 2.23. And 10th in route win rate. This Jaylen Waddle guy is very legit. There's a reason why they drafted him so highly. Mike McDaniel completely spun this team around. And again, if Tua was able to stay healthy, G. Willikers, Jaylen Waddle, really smash. Sorry if my voice sounds a little bit weird in this video. Might not to you. It does sound a little off to me. I was at the Devils game yesterday. The Devils won. I got my jersey over there. Got my hat on. Got my towel I got at the game. Playoff game, round 2. The Devils won 8-4. I was very excited. I was screaming. Voice a little messed up, but yeah. Hopefully you understand. I like other sports other than football. I think you guys might know that, though, because I have talked about the Devils a decent amount in the past. Obviously, the Dolphins are my NFL team. Tier number 4, still continuing here. Garrett Wilson, New York Jumbo Jets, underdog ADP, wide receiver 9, pick 14.1. Wide receiver 31.5 PPR points per game last season, tied with Hollywood Brown and Mecole Hardman. 17 games played, 147 targets, 8.6 per game, number 6, 83 receptions, 4.9 per game, 16th, 1,103 receiving yards, 64.9 per game, 14th, and 4 total touchdowns, 37th. Quarterback situation was garbage. 6.6 target accuracy, 90th. Magic Mike White, Zach Wilson, cool. Joe Flacco. They now move to Aaron Rodgers. Discount double check himself. Mr. COVID foot. There's a lot of great things you can say about Aaron Rodgers. One worry of mine, Rodgers loves to throw to his guys. His guys. The Jets have a lot of his guys that they brought in. Now, Garrett Wilson is so good, he's probably going to be immune to that. Maybe you might even say immunized to that. Very funny. 229, route wins 19th. The guy is so good that even my worries about the Jets throwing, maybe Rodgers throwing more to these other guys that he trusts a little bit more, I still think Garrett Wilson is just really that good that it shouldn't really matter. Not really panicking about it. Got him ranked a little bit lower than some people. I think the Jets offense might be a little bit more disappointing than people think. I think the Jets are going to be a little bit more disappointing than people think. But I still think that call a spade a spade. Garrett Wilson looked amazing. If his quarterbacks weren't complete and utter dick cheese last year, he would have probably been a top 10 points per game guy. Top 12. So, got to give him credit. He's really good. So, I'm not trying to shit on him. I'm not trying to shit on Rodgers either. I like Rodgers. I think he's a good quarterback. I think the Jets are still going to be a good team. I just don't think they're going to be as amazing as people are saying. And number 12, final guy here, DeVonta Smith, Eagles, underdog ADP, wide receiver 13, pick 24.4. I think there are a couple of players you can argue could be the number 12 receiver. Now, we're going to be talking about the top 24 soon. So you get some of those other guys like Chris Olave. He should be number 12, some people might say. Okay. I'd kind of put him in the similar tier here, I think. Maybe tier 5, but very close. Wide receiver 9.5 PPR points, PPR. Wide receiver 15.5 PPR points per game, Tyler Murray Cooper and Tyler Lockett. 17 games played, 136 targets last season, 8 per game, 13th, 95 receptions, 5.6 per game, 9th, 1,196 receiving yards, 70.4 per game, 8th, 7 total touchdowns, 14th, 27.7% dominator rating, 20th, 15.8 juke rate, 3rd. Again, another great player. Another guy that deserves to have this high ranking. Garrett Wilson is the only one of these guys that is the number 1 on his team, whereas DeVonta Smith's like the 1B, same thing with Jaylen Waddle, right? Again, I think this Eagles offense is going to continue to run the shit out of the rock. DeVonta Smith, again, so good, he'll be just fine. Same with A.J. Brown. Again, DeVonta Smith doesn't necessarily have the craziest build. It looks like he's built like a fucking stick. He's built like Kevin Durant, right? The Slim Reaper. But the offense is going to be scoring a bunch of points. He's going to be getting a bunch of targets. He's going to be good again, right? There's some of these guys, and a lot of these top 12 guys, you can split hairs, right? When making arguments against these guys. They're all really fucking good, right? They're all really good. And I think there's a lot more debate you can have with the running backs, right? The top 12 running backs, you might say, Nick, this guy that you have ranked in the top 12 should not be there. It should be this guy, right? And there's legitimate arguments to have. I think besides DeVonta Smith, this is a very clear top 12 list. I think there's not a lot of nitpicking you can do. I don't think there's a lot of players you say, Nick, this guy that you have ranked at 6th should be number 40 or number 27, right? You're not going to make that argument, I don't think. So I like talking about the running backs a little bit more because I think they're a little bit more interesting. But the wide receiver position, just as important. You still need them. And I think today's video was interesting. I think I had fun. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had fun watching. We always have fun doing these things. I try to keep them short. They always go long because I love talking. Just how it goes. I love you guys, too. Thank you guys for everything. Greatly appreciate it. It's May. NFL schedule is coming out soon. Knocking on the door of the offseason. June, July, then the great August, baby. So thank you guys for watching. I love you guys all so much. I'm so pumped for the football season. We're far away still, right? Still pretty far back. But it's getting closer. And I love you guys. Again, thank you for everything. Let me know if you got any questions, any comments, any concerns. Leave them in the comment section. Love you guys all. Again, as always, have a great rest of your guys' day. Good boy.